doesn't matter what we do in life, if we want to do it the best way we can, it all starts with education. And we never stop learning. Some of us think we have, but you're going to learn something every day. And if you're not learning, you're unlearning, so you might as well learn. The basis for anything we do, as I mentioned, is a good education. And our guest today is here with a fantastic private institution of higher education. Well, not just higher education, all education as well. The Cambridge School of Dallas, and our guest, Paul Wolfe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honored to be here with you.
So I misspoke a little bit. It's more of a preparatory school, correct?
Well, yes, but you did not misspeak.
Okay, good.
We're engaged in higher education.
Okay.
Higher education doesn't simply mean you're working on a college degree, but you're learning things that actually prepare you to live a good life.
Once again, I was smarter than I thought I was.
Yes, you were right when you didn't know you were right.
I was accidentally correct. Okay, you guys are a Christ-centered preparatory school, which is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
We actually have three things that describe who we are and what our mission is.
Okay.
Christ-centered is the first, classical second, college preparatory the third. Mm-hmm. Christ-centered because, as I may talk about a little bit more in our discussion today, Christ to us is the organizing, coherent reality of all truth, all understanding, all knowledge. That's why the Apostle John began his gospel the way he did, noting that the Logos, the eternal Word, Christ himself, is the one from whom all else is derived, in a sense.
Nice. Okay. So that explains the Christ-centered part.
Yes.
Now, the one thing you touched, I want to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about how you have a classical education
Yes.
versus a modern contemporary education that a lot of other. Could you give us a little compare and contrast, if you will, between the two?
Sure. Let me start by putting it positively rather than negatively.
Please.
Classical education revolves around what I just said a moment ago, a set or some particular organizing core principles and convictions. For example, there is such a thing as truth.
Yeah.
Now, you might not realize how radically or drastically it is the case, but not all education revolves around that core principle. That may be the case, may not be, but it doesn't matter if you don't pass this test today, right?
Right.
Passing this test or getting a good job or whatever the case might be. So classical education revolves around some core principles. Secondly, faith and reason are not opposites. They are not opposed. They are two sides of the same coin, so to speak. They are companions, and classical education approaches knowledge, approaches understanding, approaches learning, approaches what it means to be human, with both of those two realities held very, very firmly and very closely. Faith and reason always going together. Secondly, classical education is concerned about the person as a whole. One of the things that I have tried to say often, because it comes right out of both classical and Christian education, is remember, we don't teach subjects, we don't teach curricula, we teach people, we teach students. And by teaching them, it doesn't mean simply knowledge and facts and the organizing principles and so forth, but what it means to be human. What is the purpose of being human? Ultimately, it's to develop and live the kind of life we're created to live. And that is true for anyone, irrespective of your socioeconomic status, your geography, your race, your relationships, etc. So by doing that, we are aiming at trying to shape and form and bring out of people virtuous life. You might remember the 4 classical virtues, or do you, Bryan?
Oh, well, let's give it a shot. Go ahead.
Prudence, fortitude, temperance, and justice.
I've got 3 up and down.
Those are the 4. You need to work on that 4th one. Those
we won't say which one that is.
that were very much at the heart of education and noble living in classical period. Add to that the 3 Christian virtues, faith, hope, and love. And those 7 virtues we're aiming at trying to help shape and bring out of students or put into students, whatever the case might be, all along the way. So those are the things that really animate and describe classical education. One last comment, and this is where I will contrast it primarily with a lot of modern education. Truth can be known, truth should be sought, truth is coherent, and that is in contrast to I shouldn't say all, a lot of modern education, which is very disjointed. It's based around a cynicism. Scholars call it deconstruction. We're not interested in deconstructing, we're interested in constructing, trying to figure out what it is that makes all of these other things real, worthwhile, understandable, knowledgeable, and so forth. Yeah.
Well, I do know this much. Of those last three, faith, hope, and love, the greatest of those is love.
Indeed.
I knew that part.
Indeed.
Just had to throw something out there. My gosh, this is fascinating. Okay, one of the things that really caught my eye when I was reading notes on you before you came in, you refer to how the Cambridge School of Dallas has had a nomadic existence all this time for 18 years.
Yes.
You got it. So you've been kind of moving around stuff, but it's an exciting new frontier is approaching for you guys.
It is. One of the things that is helpful to understand why we've been nomadic is we're in North Dallas, in the northwest quadrant of Dallas, just on the edge of Preston Hollow.
Right.
Preston Hollow, very solid neighborhood in every
nice part
respect.
Of town, as they say.
Nice part of town. And it has many very, very strong private schools. And in fact, one of the best public school systems in Texas is right there in Highland Park Independent School District. So the competition for a small new kid on the block in the area of private education, that was stiff, very stiff.
Sure.
And so we had to distinguish ourselves in some way. And even doing that, though, you're up against some of the most elite schools in the country, literally. Well, we think we are distinctive by being Christ-centered, classical, and college preparatory. We're regularly ranked in the top 5 of all private schools in Dallas-Fort Worth, in North Texas.
Goodness.
We're ranked in the top Christian schools in the state. So our record speaks for itself. We do very, very well in those regards. But it's still very difficult to get a permanent home there in Northwest Dallas.
Right.
Real estate's at a premium. The cost is outrageous. Well, we've now purchased land, and we are in the process of designing a new campus and hopefully finding enough people who are able to help us and make that become a reality. We hope to move into phase 1 the summer of 2021.
Well, that is exciting, as I said, and I commend you on that, and I also commend you on everything regarding your school. I mean, the fact that you've been around for 18 years, doing it what you have, where you've done it, speaks volumes.
Yes.
Because you're right, that is a pretty, can't think of the proper word, a competitive area.
Yes, very competitive market, if you
town.
want to speak of it in terms of market.
But now then, the fact that you're going to be able to bring it on home, no pun intended, and have a permanent structure is great as well, because through 18 years you've got some alumni built up. I mean, the momentum's going.
Yes.
The proof is in the pudding.
We actually now have our first alumnus on our board, and that's been such a joy and an honor.
How fun is that? Yeah. 18 years into it. Paul Wolfe, everybody, the Cambridge School of Dallas. Exciting times going on over there, and I know that you have an extensive background in education yourself prior to coming on board with this school, but what a blessing it is for them to have you. You wouldn't, that's my words, not yours. You're not that kind of guy, but you're the type of guy that needs to be leading a school like this, just from your own personal characteristics and everything else.
Yeah.
So
I spent 20 years as a professor prior to coming to this school. And actually, I'm surrounded by people who make me feel slow and less able.
Welcome to my world, Paul. I'm like that all the time, and I really hate to cut you off, but we're going to have to roll right now. But we wish you all the best as you get the permanent home in. I don't think you need any luck, because it's not about luck.
Thank you.
Paul Wolfe, everybody, Cambridge School of Dallas. Thanks for coming all in with us today.
Indeed,
Appreciate
my
that.
honor.
Thank you as well, folks. See you next time.